How did you adapt to all of this?
How was it? Another shock. In France, usually you have a bathroom, but like the shower or the bathtub is like its home space. And then the sink, but you don't like take a shower in the whole room. Like in Korea, it's like you can take shower in the whole room. Everything is made for the room to like you can shower everywhere. So for me it was hard because he would like take shower Korean style in my French bathroom and I would like, why is there like water everywhere on my floor?
Welcome to International Love Story, the podcast about intercultural relationships. My name is Christina, and in today's podcast episode, I'm going to welcome Angelina, who is from France, and Sini, who is from Korea, and they're both living in South Korea at the moment. We just had a quick little mini pre-chat, so honestly, I don't know too much about them, which is my favorite setting, honestly, because that way it's gonna be a little surprise for me as well, and that way it's gonna be much more engaging for me, because I feel like France and South Korea, those cultures, at least this is what I am thinking, they're just totally different. So I'm sure there are a lot of cultural differences. Obviously, this is going to be part of this podcast episode, but the main part will be about them, how they met, about their life in South Korea at the moment, and yeah, about their future plans. So I can't wait to listen to their full story. So with this being said, let's give a warm welcome to Angelina and Sunil. And yeah, again, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story today. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you guys doing? Tell us all about you.
So thank you for having us on this podcast. So I'm Angelina and I'm married to Sunil.
Yeah.
So I'm French, he's Korean, and we have been married for 2 years.
4 years.
4 years already? Wow. Yeah.
In this year, start 4 years. Yeah.
So yeah. So we're currently living in South Korea. We have lived in France as well. So yeah, we are an international couple, and yeah, that's the best thing I could do.
I mean, there's obviously much more. So I usually start this podcast episode is with, how did you guys meet? As mentioned before, I know a little bit about your story. I know that you met online, but you weren't looking for anything. You weren't looking for love. You just wanted to learn languages, and this is how you connected. But I think that's something you'll be able to tell a little bit better than I could possibly do. So how did you meet? What was the setting? How were the conversations you had, and when did you meet exactly?
Actually, we have conversation with my wife in online, the chat. But actually, I went to long time 2018. In 2018, when I had a job in the inspect to container kind of trade company, but I want to more career for English skill, speak in front to speak English. So that's why I visited the exchange cafe around my home. So I at once I had met the French guy, but when he had he adapted to Korea to France. So I interested with him, then had communicate to each other, and we had various subjects. We talked to the various subjects, and then he said, "Yeah, you have a girlfriend, or you don't get married. You don't interested the relationship." He asked to me because I more elder than him. So yeah, I wandered to the foreign woman, or maybe English. We have a conversation in cafe or blah blah. But he suggests to recommend to the short picture for the exchange application. But so at the moment I see my wife picture profile. So I said stop, and then I remember for her profile, and then I installed the app and I contacted her. Yeah, and then we talk to chat. We keep in touch with going. Yeah, so
that's his side. My side is like I was learning Korean as like a hobby for like 2 years already. I was doing that like outside of job, outside of my study at that moment, and I wanted to like practice my Korean. So the best way to do that, like when you're overseas, is obviously like apps, or like a language exchange apps. And then I was doing this for fun, and then he contacted me and we had a chat, and we started like doing video calls, and like we were getting along well. So that's how it started, and then we met like physically, and then that's when we were like interested in getting into a relationship, and that's how we started the long distance relationship at that time.
How many months were between him texting you first and then seeing each other in person?
Seeing each other.
I came in touch with her in January, 2019 January, 설날 season. The 설날 is the Korean holiday. Yeah, January. The kind of Chinese Lunar. And
so
then
for 4 or 5 months. You
5 months.
Came like he visited in June. He visited France in June, and he stayed for a week at that time. So like we visited like Paris, and we visited also the city where I was staying, because I was like studying for a master's degree in the north of France. So we stayed together, getting to know each other, and then we started like, we thought that we were getting along so well that we should just like start being in official relationship. So we did that. And then I visited him in Busan, October of that year.
End of week, October,
Yeah. So that's how it started. So we started like as a long distance relationship, if that's the question.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting, because I'm also wondering, as I understand, Neil, you were trying to also improve your English. Were you learning French at that moment as well? And also, in which language did you communicate while getting to know each other?
So he wanted to improve his English. He was not learning French at that time.
Yeah.
So we would like only communicate in English. But then like later in our relationship, he came to France, and he actually like took French classes in France when he was staying with me. So slowly he starting to learn French, and slowly my Korean also got better. So we kind of mix or the like different languages, more like between English and Korean. But he making effort in French as well. So I guess it's like the biggest thing, like when we are the native country is not like the US or the UK or like an English speaking country, you kind of have to like make the efforts to at least learn the basic of your partner's language, at least to communicate with like his or her family. So he did that for my family. So when he visits France with me, when we go to France, like he would like speak a lot of French to them more than me. And I would like improve my Korean and to be able to like communicate with my in-laws as well.
So I understood correctly that you saw each other the first time in France, and you met her whole family.
So first time we just meet together.
Yeah.
The second time we met is like October of the same year. So he came in June to France. In October, I went to Busan and I met like his parents.
No, actually, first I went to in June first. Also, I went to the September, the Chuseok holiday season, two times, and with her parents.
All right.
Her parents and grandparents.
You meet my parents first.
Yeah. And then she back to the October. It's the Busan. She meet also my parents.
Maybe his parents. Yeah. And then was it January or
February?
January. January, like his parents wanted to visit France, so they came, and my parents also like went to Paris and they met there. So
that's incredible. That's very fast. I mean, again, I'm mentioning this sometimes in the podcast episodes I'm recording, but Nacho and I were dating since 10 years, married since 8, and we didn't manage that yet. So our family did not meet yet. And you guys, you went from talking on a tandem language app to visiting or seeing each other for the first time only 5 months later, to traveling back and forth between France and Korea. And then just a few months later, like, you would be able to make a whole family reunion, which is so lovely. I'm so happy for you that you were able to do that, because that's just like, how was it for you? Was it interesting to see like different cultures, your family communicating, whether communicating in English? Was it just like a lot of gesturing? How was it for you seeing them being together?
It was hard for them to communicate because like my parents don't speak English and his parents also don't speak English. So we would like be in the middle trying to like help them. But like I guess they find their way, like having a dinner together, like this kind of thing, like having some alcohol together, like the fathers, they would get along like pretty well. And like what was kind of good is like they met in Paris. Like all of us met in Paris. My parents, like, I think never went to Paris before. So like they kind of discover, we visit like Montmartre. What did we do? Eiffel Tower?
Tourist spot in Paris.
Tourist spot. So we went around like real tourists. My parents as well. So it was kind of bonding, I guess, from that time. Yeah. And then like
also we have eating the Korean food and also
we
French
had like
food.
Paris is good because you have a lot of like Korean restaurant as well. So my parents could also like experience their culture,
bibimbap,
like eating bibimbap like with my parents-in-law. So yeah, that was fun. It's kind of like a little shock because they're my parents like eating bibimbap is kind of like not shocking but like
too much
surprising.
How to make too much
how to make that. They also learn
and the mix and sauce. They shocked.
But
so you introduce them to your culture.
Yeah, right.
That's incredible. I just find it very interesting, especially when families get together and they don't speak a common language. The way they communicate and that they'll find ways to communicate without words or like gesturing. And then obviously you translated a main chunk of the conversation. But I guess over time, it just built its own dynamic where you didn't have to be involved too much anymore in translating because they just found their own way of communication. And I also feel like, which is interesting, that you brought them to the Korean barbecue places, because I've learned that food is really connecting people. So once it's about food and trying out something new, it's just like, okay, you don't need a lot of words. So that's so nice that you were even able to introduce them a little bit to the Korean, at least Korean food culture. And I assume that were they able to visit Korea yet, like doing it the other way around, welcoming your family, Angelina, in Korea?
My parents didn't come to Korea yet, so we hope soon.
So seeing the other side of it, yeah. So how did it move from there? Because you've mentioned then COVID hit. So
yeah, COVID hit. So I was planning another like trip to Korea in like April the next year. So to like, I think around the cherry blossom that time. But like, that's when like COVID hit. And like in France, we were like in quarantine. So we could not go outside. So not even taking planes, like anything like that. So if we had to like find a way to be together, because like if COVID was gonna like be long, like we had to find some kind of way to like live together.
My family came to the France the 2020 January in solar season with her family in Paris, and I declared I want to live with her in France. So they understand and they appreciate for us. So I make a plan to go to France. I will take visa, but in this after I will come back to Korea. Suddenly the COVID is the beginning and too serious. So my plan is so complicated, the process.
You wanted to come, but like the visa was hard,
so
like hard to
hard
get.
to.
And my plane was come. So
and then finally I will get visa in August. Student visa, and then I will go to the living city in France. So we meet and we stay with her house in Lille.
So he got like a student visa for, it was August 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
2020?
Yeah.
Because like at that moment there was no like other way to like enter the country easily because they were not allowing tourists, especially from Asia. So we made the plan like for him to like study French so he could get like a student visa and we could start like living together, like experiencing life, like living together, because it's important to know like physically living together. So that's how like we closed the long distance at that time. Yeah.
And you lived in France. I've mentioned before, like at least this is what I've imagined, but I'm sure, I mean, obviously it's your story and you've made that experience yourself, but how is it culture-wise? Was it a big culture difference for you, Seniel, to live in France after, because there's a difference between visiting a place as a tourist and then living at a place. How was it for you? How did you feel about it?
How did you feel about France? Like the culture difference?
Actually, I feel uncomfortable and embarrassed for the public toilet, and also maybe if they come to the home, the actual entrance, entrance, but in Korea it's separate. And take off shoes and then maybe wear socks in the home. But in Korea, in France, just to come to take a walk in the home. When during the shoes, they're confused and
That's also a big culture shock for me in Korea. So like in Korea, like you have to take off your shoes before like entering the house, and there's like a design space for that. While in France, you have like an entrance, but you can take out your shoes and put slippers. But like in Korea, it's really like made for that. They have like a little thing like that, like you step on and then you're in the house. Like it's really separated.
Yep.
So for him, it was a little hard at first because there's no like separate space like where you walk with the shoes and where you walk without the shoes. So we had to make some rules in France.
I understand why it's important to you, so because it's obviously also the way you grew up. You're used to it, but I think the compromise of, okay, we have the separate area where we take our shoes off and we ask our guests to take the shoes off as well. That's easier because like at least I wouldn't mind asking people like, hey, can you please take your shoes off? I think that's an easier compromise to move like further when it comes to this, to the Korean culture, rather than just sticking to your opinion, like, no, let's just leave the shoes on because this is how we've always done that and this is how I grew up. But it's just interesting that it's just like a small thing. Like if you hear it, it's a small thing for me, for example, but I know it's a big thing in the Korean culture to take shoes off. And also when you talk about like the public bathrooms that I guess are not very clean in France, first of all, and also that they might just be a little bit different to what you're used to, so that you're just like, what I'm actually doing here, what's going on here. It's just so different to everything I know. Why again, like for us, it might just be a small thing, but for you, it's a big thing. What else? Like, how was it? How was it for you living together the first few weeks? How did you adapt to all of this?
How was it? Another shock? Living
just
with me?
with the one episode, also the separate in the home when I take a shower in Korea. Yep, it's normal. Normally when I take a shower, the spread to water is normal because it's separate and then don't come to the inside. But in France, don't separate. I take a shower, the spread the water in a lot of things.
In the bathroom.
Bathroom, and she really annoying and she nagging for me and
it's really like comparing a French house and a Korean like house apartment, and like every difference made him like kind of uncomfortable. So in France, I don't know for you, but like in France, usually you have a bathroom, but like the shower or the bathtub is like its home space. And then the sink, but you don't like take a shower in the whole room. Like in Korea, is like you can take shower in the whole room. Everything is made for the room to like you can shower everywhere. So for me, it was hard because he would like take shower Korean style in my French bathroom, and I would like, why is there like water everywhere on my floor?
So
Because there's no like thing to like evacuate the water in the French like bathroom like floor, but in Korea it's like in the room. So I would like, yeah.
So
a little bit
I
hard,
to
but-
attach it to my body and please be careful. So hard.
I mean, I'm not sure if this is going to make a difference. I mean, obviously it's not comparable. In Argentina, you also have separate, like you have the shower and then the sink and the toilet, like it's all separated. You don't take a shower in the whole bathroom. So you have a section, but even though we have a section there, Nacho always manages to flood the whole bathroom somehow as well. And there's like no culture difference when it comes to this because we grew up the same way in that sense. But he still manages to flood a bathroom. And I think that's just like, so I understand that you were Angelina when you saw that, because also there's no drainage. So I guess there's no way for the water to, so you had to clean it and to dry it with a towel because the water couldn't go somewhere. So that the first times that happens, you were annoyed and you were just like, why is it like this? But understanding that it's actually a cultural difference and that it has a lot to do with the way you grew up and what you're used to, that's just a game changer. Because now that you are, you live in Korea, I'm sure you had your fair amount of culture shock as well, right? And you're just like, this is why. Now I understand.
Yeah, right. That's also why we wanted him to like live in France. I think it's important that we both live in each other's country at least some time to understand like each other's culture and each other like habits. Why our habits are like that. Sometimes it's just like cultural or like we grew up like that. So you have to understand that to like build a good relationship, I think. So I think it was important because like when I came to Korea, like I understood a lot of things from his habits and stuff. So yeah.
How was it for you to live in Korea?
For me, I have the same culture shock at him with the shoes because it's kind of uncomfortable for me to like having to take out my shoes like in that space because there's no like you cannot sit. So you have to put your shoes on like really fast. And Koreans are really good at that. So they just like jump in their shoes and go. But I'm like, I have to like put my hand inside the shoes to make it fit my feet and stuff. So was uncomfortable for him, but it's also uncomfortable for me sometimes. Is there any cultural difference? There's a lot, but right now I don't have any like shock that's coming like in my head right now. Like
You've adjusted quite
like
well.
in the street is also like it's really convenient. Like the subway is really convenient compared like to some part of France is really clean. So that's kind of really different. And like but here like of course like I get more stared at than I would in France. So like in my everyday life, sometimes I'm just like, doing my grocery shopping and like some Korean people would like stare at me. I'm like, what? And then I remember, okay, it's no more. Like I look different, but sometimes it's hard to like adjust to that. So that's what was on my biggest culture shock, I guess. And then I work in a Korean company, so it's also a lot of shocks, more in the working space for me. For the like living together, since we already lived together in France, I guess it was easier to like adjust to the differences because he would tell me like, yeah, I behave like this because like in Korea my bathroom is not like that. So I would like understand, and then when I come here I'm not that like shocked. It's because I already like know because he told me so in the room. So it's like that. There's a thing like in Korea, when you get a house, like there's like a big thing about like apartments. So in Korea, they love apartments that is like full option. Like you have like the AC, the heater, like everything is like in option in the house. So, and it's like they have all the accommodation, like they pay really high prices to have like gym in the same building and stuff. In France, like a successful like life in terms of housing is more like a house, you know, like a house with a garden and stuff. This is more like, I guess, like some housing achievements that people would like go towards in France. But in Korea, like it's more about like the clean apartments, like big apartments, like with big views and like full options with the gym in the building. So at first it was kind of hard. Like when you come here and like you kind of want like a French house, but you have to like there's not kind of house here, and usually the is not the best kind of house in Korea. So you have to like go more towards apartments to like have a good living. So yeah, that was one of my biggest shock, because you know, like in France we kind of get raised like you're gonna get a house with like a garden and like a big kitchen and stuff. But here is more like small and like more, I guess, more city life driven. So that's kind of different. That was kind of like a little big difference for me.
Yeah, which I totally understand, honestly, because that still happens to me, even though if honestly, Buenos Aires is not so different to any other European country, because or European city, because you have a lot of influence, especially from Italy here and also from Spain. But I still keep on comparing things to Germany. For example, I keep on comparing prices. Some things are just more expensive here. For example, furniture, because Argentina has just this weird thing of, I mean, it does make sense, but it's just annoying price-wise. So first of all, there's no such thing as Amazon. We have Mercado Libre instead. It's called Mercado Libre. So like free market, basically, if you would translate it. And it's the products you get there, they're not like, first of all, they're quite expensive, in my opinion, and the quality is not very good. And then there are also not so many exports from other countries, from the US or from Europe, because countries wouldn't ship to Argentina usually because it's too expensive. Taxes here are insane for imports. So that's the reason why prices for specific things are quite expensive, because Argentina has their own market. And because of that, they can basically set any price and people have to buy it because they can't get it somewhere else. Like the best example is, for example, the sofa that's behind me. For that, I would have paid half in Germany. It's not the best quality, you know, it has some flaws already. And I'm just like, the sofa is only 6 months old. We paid a good amount of money for it. And I'm just like, I keep on comparing, especially prices to Germany. And that's something I feel like at the moment I can't really get used to. Because if I want anything, for example, I have to go outside and really do like shopping, because I can't get it online usually, you know, like, and those are things. And then when you start thinking about it, like how weird it is and how spoiled I am in so many things, like expecting on the long run a house and a garden that's impossible to find here in Buenos Aires, because it's a huge city, you know, like usually it's an apartment, and if you have a balcony, you're lucky if you have a big balcony. And that's something I'm really working on, to switch my brain off and be like, this is Argentina, this is not Germany anymore. I'm doing this to you because it just drives you nuts. So that's just like on the long run. Obviously, it doesn't make sense if you're planning to live in a country for longer than 2 or 3 years. Which brings me to my next question. Is South Korea going to be your long-term home, or what is your planning in general for the future?
That's a hard question, because like we're kind of flexible about that. Like we always like say like happens what happens. Like if we feel like going back to France because there's an opportunity there, why not? But for now, I think because I'm working, so I have a full-time job here in Korea. So like it like keeps us like keeping like wanting to stay here, because like I'm working. Like if I go back to France, we have to start all over again, like we already did, because it was already hard. Because we kind of started a life in France and then we decided to come here. So it's a big choice, because it's a lot of work. You have to like sell everything that you have and then come here. So going back like in this short period, I think it's more work again. You have to go back and then restart everything again, like finding a job, like getting used to this new life and stuff. So maybe I'm thinking more like when we are older, maybe when we retire, because I tend to think like it's a bit more peaceful in France than Korea is more like fast-paced life, like city living, fast, kind of like a lot of focus on work. So I guess maybe when we retire, we want something more like peaceful. Maybe France would be a good place to like get old together.
So I hope so. I want back to France in maybe retire season. Yeah, we more get elder. Yeah.
That actually sounds even romantic, to be honest, because that's what we Germans connect with France. For us, France is very romantic, and knowing that you'll be able to retire there, for example, like just living your best life and the cutest cafes, like going to the cutest cafes, and just enjoying life. I mean, to me, it sounds very romantic, but I know reality
But actually, Korea is more about
different.
coffee. I don't know, coffee trends. Korea is better than at that, I think.
What about
We have
the food culture? Like how is it for you, Angelina? Because that's my biggest struggle here. I don't find good bread, and as a German, that's just very difficult.
First, like here, vegetable and fruit are kind of expensive. It's kind of a luxury here. They buy like 4 apples and it's so expensive, and it's like a present. Sometimes people like gift fruit to you. So I got one time my boss actually for like holiday gift me like a fruit basket. In France, never. Like fruit and vegetable are so more cheaper. Maybe not right now, but when I was in France, it was easier to eat vegetables and fruit. But in Korea, it's kind of expensive and it's not that easy. And breads is complicated because I'm French, and Asian have their own way to make breads. Like Korean have their way to make bread. So there's a lot of bakeries actually in Korea. So there are some bakeries that are more like for Koreans, like the taste is more like sugary, I guess. And there's also like kind of all the Japanese kind of like pastries that kind of are popular in Korea as well. So it's not that easy to find like real French bread. You have to go to the French. So the French people that opens bakeries, basically. So it's not that easy, and sometimes it's a bit expensive, and it's not always the exact same taste. But if I found like if I go to a French like owned bakery, like it's like tastes more like France. But it's also not easy for them because they have to like adjust to the Korean trends without losing all like the French taste. So I understand as well why it's not that easy to make like real French bread. So bread. And then Korean food. I like Korean food, but I had a hard time. Like when I first came, like I had like all the family culture, but I also had a lot of like work culture because like I find like I arrived in January and I was hired in August in a Korean company that has only Koreans. So we would get like Korean meals in the lunchtime. And then my body said stop and I had to switch my diet back to like more like European style. I guess my body is like cannot eat it for a long time, repetitively. So I have to like make my own food more and like go more toward like breads or like sandwiches, salads, these kind of things, or make my own food. So yeah.
How is it, Sunil, for you to see that Angelina is adapting in Korea, in your home country, seeing that she's working for a Korean company? How do you feel about it?
How do you feel that how I adapt to Korea?
Actually, when I live in France and we talk about the Korean culture to exchange it to the information, so in advance, so that when we moved to Korea, after she feel more fast to adapt the Korean culture.
Than you in France, you think?
Yeah.
You think I adapt more fast?
Yeah.
But like the thing that is a little like unbalanced for us is that before I knew him, I already went to Korea once. I traveled to Korea once, and I was interested in Korean culture because when I was like younger, I would love like Korean pop culture, like K-pop, K-dramas and stuff. So I was like kind of already pre-immersed in that culture, like virtually, I guess. And I already traveled there. I know a bit about the food. So I guess because I have like, and then on social media, I would watch a lot of like content about Korea. So I was more exposed to this kind of things. So I guess maybe it's easier to like, was easier for me to adapt faster. And I guess like working like made me like adapt fast because I had no choice. I had to face the Korean language and yeah, understand also like the coworkers in their behaviors, like in their like speaking, everything in the culture, the society culture and stuff. So yeah.
How's your Korean?
How's my Korean?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So she adapted fast than my thinking.
You think I don't adapt that fast, right? But I think it's just because of working.
You adapted fast than my thinking. So that's why I appreciate to her thank you for understanding Korean culture, and yeah, I appreciate her. Yeah.
I mean, to me, it sounds like she adapted quite fast, honestly. Kind of makes sense, Angelina, if you had a high interest in the Korean culture beforehand, K-pop, and everything that's connected to Korea in general, which I think is very interesting as well. And I guess that's also the reason why you, or one of the reasons, obviously you also wanted to learn the language, why you signed into the language app. But to me, it's just mind-baffling, like I'm not sure if you have friends that are interested as much in the Korean culture as you are as well, but that you find yourself in this bubble and then out of sudden you see yourself living in Korea and you're just like, okay, how did I even get here? It started as being interested in the culture, learning the language, and now I'm living here. Okay.
Life is just
I feel like
surprised.
It's super surprising, yeah. And I feel like also because I know that you got married, and that's also what you've mentioned, you got married 4 years ago. I feel like we kind of skipped that part. Was the reason, may I ask, the reason for you to get married in order to live together, for the paperwork, to move to Korea, or for Sinil to stay longer in France? And like, how was it for you, the whole getting married and then moving together?
So actually, before we got married, we paxed. So I don't know if you know what it is. PACS. It's like I don't know how to explain that. It's like in France we have that where you can like link each other in.
Not get married.
No, it's not getting married, but like it's like officially being like couple. So when you have done this, you can actually get a kind of visa, a visa that like helps you get close to your family. So that's what we did for him after the student visa. So we did the PAX, and then he got this visa for family, like I don't know how do we say in English, like getting together. And then we lived together, and then there was like a family matter on his family in Korea. I'm not gonna say more about this, but like that kind of made us wants to come to Korea to like be close to his family. So there was that, and we were in the process of like preparing for the wedding because like we had like a lot of problems because obviously because of COVID, it was hard. Even after COVID, it was like kind of like not that easy.
They do have different accents in Korea as well, no? Depending on the area.
Oh yeah, they have different accents. I think it's like French is similar. We have like kind of accents, but in Busan, in Korea in general, they have like more like the Seoul accent. The Busan is more like south, like I guess more sunny accent from close to the ocean. They also have different kind of accents according to the areas. And like Korean, like between themselves, they can know like, oh, this person is from this area of Korea. This person is from like Seoul. This person is from Busan. They usually know.
Is it easy for you to understand the different accents, or is it a big difference?
because I live in Busan, they have like the Busan accent a little bit, but like it's more of the it's more like the older generation. So like the younger people, they don't have that thick kind of accent. But like maybe sometimes like coworkers would have like an accent or like a way to express that is more like kind of Busan style. And like when how do I say that? When I'm kind of like learning Korean on the spot. So usually I try to mimic what they say. So sometimes I pick up the Busan accent without knowing. And then I speak to him and he's like, why are you using the accent? Where did you learn that? I never said that, because he doesn't have the accent. He doesn't use it that much. So yeah, that's one of the funny things about the Korean accents.
Really interesting that you're just picking up the old accent, like the language usually people in your age wouldn't speak anymore, and then you're just throwing it into a conversation. So yeah, that's very interesting. But getting back to your story of your marriage, so you were telling that you had a family emergency, so you had to move to Korea eventually. So you were preparing for this, and then you got married in France.
So yeah, we were getting along so well. We already did the pack, so we figured out like, let's just get married, like, because honestly, it always, for also living Korea, it makes life a little bit easier when you have like the spouse visa. So we got married in France.
Actually, I most the supplementary.
You want to add something?
Yeah. I had I had a visa in first, student visa in first, and the term is finished. When I back to the Korea, I prepare for the second kind of, she's praying for visit visa. I prepare for visit visa in second, and then I make plan for propose, get married
with me.
Yeah, because she's in France culture. It is hard to propose and it is hard to more progressive get married. It's short term, but in my mind, we more fight for love. I went to France, she went to Busan, my family and her family that get along. So it's just lead to the life for the girls to get married. For me, but she planned for she's thinking for, it is too early for get married when I propose. But in my case, it's no big deal. Just when I finish the first student visa, I prefer for the get married. And I talked to the mom, and I prefer for and get married. And then in March I get a visited visa, and and then back to go to the France in April 2021, and we stay in the France in Lille, and then we Pax, but we had a Pax, but actually
to you it's like
in my case,
I
get married. Pax get married is same for me. So yeah,
because I had like the thing. Maybe it's a European thing, I don't know. But like I felt like it was too early to get married, because like in France, like two French people like would not get married that fast, So I was like, is it too fast? Is it, I don't know, blah blah blah. So we paxed, but like to him it was like we were already getting married. So
because it's an official document as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you still sign a paper. It's like a contract, but yeah, I understand, because you both sign a paper where you initially state like, we are a couple, we are building a life together. So in the end, the only thing that was missing was the whole ceremony of, at least in a white dress, and inviting guests and having a party and having an official who's marrying you, depending on if you want to get married. I'm not sure if it's in our generation, if it's still the original way, but getting married by church, or having someone who's doing a free speech and who's marrying you. But yeah, I understand that the whole thing of signing a paper, because that's what in the end a marriage is as well, in a way. like the not so romantic part of just signing a paper and then you're officially married, to see it like this. But I get it. I get that you are kind of wondering, okay, is it too soon? Or shall we wait a little bit? Is this, I mean, not that you were doubting your relationship or anything like this, but obviously talking about cultural differences and the way you grew up, this is what you've learned and this is what you've observed within your family and within your friendships, that usually it takes a few years and you really get to know each other, you live together, and then you get married, and then, you know, like kind of stereotyping, cliche thinking, and again, the way you grew up. Mixing it together. But yeah, so you guys got married. You got the papers afterwards to finally be able to live in Korea. How was the whole, like coming slowly to an end, but how was the whole paperwork thing in order to live in Korea? Was it easy for you guys, or do you have any tips?
The paperwork, it was kind of still right after COVID, so we were kind of worried because for this, like in Korea, they call it the F6 visa. It's like the Korean spouse like visa, and like they have a lot of like conditions to get it. Like they check everything, so we had to actually prepare like all our plane tickets since we met, like screenshot everything, our personal pictures, like that's where our Instagram came like handy because we had everything like already uploaded there. Like when our parents met, like we made like kind of a file of our relationship to submit to get that visa. So yeah, but I would maybe like I see a lot of like foreigners or French getting married in Korea with a Korean spouse. That is a bit harder in Korea. Like when you do all the paperwork in Korea, they're a bit more strict than like when you are in France and you apply for the spouse visa to go to Korea. I guess it was a bit easier that way, but it was like 4 years ago, the visa. So it changed all the time, and it's like Korea is really strict. The immigration is really strict, so it can also depend on the people you have in front of you in the immigration service. So it really depends, but like the best tip is like to keep records of everything, like all the plane tickets when you go visit like your partner, anything. Like, and what I didn't get, and I was kind of lucky, but like they ask you like in what language like you communicate, and sometimes they ask you to have like how do you say, like a topic for Korean or a TOEIC, that's the word for English. So, or like the DELF for French, but we had none because I never like took a test in English. So I was kind of scared about that. So I would say like at least for like Korean and foreigner couple, maybe like they have to like work on their maybe exams, their language exam. If they are like speaking in English, maybe both of them should have like at least taken the TOEIC test once to have like results to show to the immigration saying like I am able to communicate in English or in Korean or in French or anything. That would be like the best advice, I would say. And like having lived together as well, I think helped the visa process go faster, because like sometimes especially in Korea, like people don't usually live together before getting married. But in our case, we lived together in France and we had like proof of that. So it kind of showed like how genuine the relationship was. And like it was easier, I guess, to give the visa. So that would be like the 3 advice I would give.
Thank you so much for this, especially collecting or having your love story in order, having pictures in case you have to prepare a folder, laying everything down. This is when we met, this is when like our conversation, because I've also interviewed a lot of couples where it was actually, or they had to print parts of their conversation, for example, if it's via WhatsApp or Instagram, also whatever. So they really had to prove that this is a real relationship, especially if they wanted to get married to someone from the US. So the US is also quite strict when it comes to this. So I can definitely, we didn't have to do that, luckily, but I can definitely underline the fact, like, if you're serious in your relationship, and if you have plans of living together on the long run, maybe in another country, closing the distance, start preparing all of this already. I know it sounds ridiculous and you're just like, oh, it's easy going, I just go with the flow. But it's better to have it rather than just really sitting down and going through all of it at once, because that will stress you out. So just have a little folder prepared where you have your picture, where you have your love story, in Drive or on your phone, whatever works best for you, because you will need that eventually. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. Again, to slowly come to an end. So we've been talking about, obviously, how you guys met, life. We've been talking about your marriage, paperwork, cultural differences. That's quite a lot already. But when it comes to everyone who's listening, who's also in an intercultural relationship, who speaks different languages, for example, what is the biggest advice you would like to share with everyone who's watching and or listening right now?
I think if you are in like an intercultural relationship, sometimes we hear a lot about culture difference, that a lot of people later broke up about because of the cultural differences. But I think it's kind of not true. I think like you have to learn to go around and like get to know your partner, understanding his culture, and like move around it, like, you know, like if both stay in their own field and culture and doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to move around, like their life or their thinking, their mindset is like culture difference, for me is not like a big problem, I think. So that would be like stay open-minded and listen to your partner, their culture, and if it doesn't match yours, that doesn't mean you cannot like be a couple. You just have to find a way around it, I think. Do you have any advice?
Actually, in my case, with Angelina, I think it's lucky for the international relationship, because I think my personality, her personality, very close to and includes the in same personality. So
similar personality.
We don't fight too much. Just keep the calm and the slow, the nature. But yeah, the Korean also the different personality too much, but international relationship maybe you said too much difference the culture and the personality. But in advance, if you are start the relationship with foreigner, I keep to the advice in the first premiere more information, gather information in advance. What is the biggest difference to culture, and maybe if I stay in travel and they have experience in directly.
That's the same thing as me.
Talk to their country culture,
learn their culture,
and
understand their culture,
and then to collective to information, and then the consider to their personality is more easy after relationship.
That's what I said. So you have to like what he means, like you have to learn about your partner culture. Like even if you're not like living in their country, you still have to do some research and try to understand their culture too, so you can understand their personality and get along. So yeah, I guess that's the same advice.
It is.
Great. Yeah.
But then yes, so you have your own personality. On top of this, you have the culture differences that affect your personality. But there's like, I would even separate it like between your own personality and your personality that's based on the culture. And obviously you have to get to know both. And as you've just said, Angelina, do your research, and in best case, being able to live in the country of your partner as well. That's just a big eye opener. I have been there, we've done that, and like there's so many things I'm still learning about the Argentinian culture where I'm just like, makes sense, that my husband in a specific situation would react that way because it's a culture difference. But then there's also like a different personality involved. But being able to kind of separate what is very important, at least to me, because that way I can learn either more about him or more about his culture. And sometimes it just becomes one as well, and it's just difficult to really pick, okay, where's this coming from right now? So thank you so much for sharing this and for sharing your love story, for doing a little in-depth. And as always, for everyone who's listening and watching right now, I will link, I hope that's okay for you guys, but I will link your Instagram profile as well. So if they have a similar background as you, if they can resonate with your love story, they have a point of contact, so they'll be able to contact you directly and learn more about your story, learn more about you as persons, being able to connect with you directly. I think that's a great way to, for someone who's in a similar situation, to have an additional source, because after all, and I'm sure you've made the same experience, we're all supporting each other, because sometimes in specific situations, it can be quite overwhelming. Well, with this being said, have a lovely evening.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching and or for listening to today's podcast episode. As always, you will find their contact details in the side note as well as in the description of the video. If you like what I'm doing, please don't forget to rate the podcast wherever you're listening to it. Subscribe on YouTube. And if you're not following me yet, you will find many more stories on International Love Story on Instagram, where I also share some insights about our life here in Buenos Aires, me as an expat again. Please take care and besitos. Bye!